The Lunar Guardsman. Written by Crimmar. Chapter 2. I wrote a letter home today.
Dear Princess Celestia, my friends and I all learned an important lesson this week. Never judge a book by its cover. Someone may look unusual, or funny, or scary, but you have to look past that and learn who they are inside. Real friends don't care what your cover is. It's the contents of a pony that count. And a good friend, like a good book, is something that will last forever. Your faithful student, Twilight Sparkle.
Twilight released her magic's hold on the letter and let it drop down as she covered her face with her hooves. She had been lying on her bed for an hour now, reading the same report over and over. She felt certain that she held the not-so-coveted #1 rank of the greatest hypocrites to ever wield the Quill Top 10. When she woke up this morning, she set off on tackling the routines that involve keeping a library running on tip-top shape. Cleaning, stacking, organizing, cleaning, though necessary, wasn't really up high or even mid-place of her checklist of fun activities, but oh boy, stacking and organizing were enjoying the view from their seat on high. To multiply the factor of enjoyment she was getting out of the experience, she had to decide to tackle her own personal items and correspondence after being done with the main library space. That meant, among a multitude of other things, that she had to gather and stack in the proper order all the reports that Princess Celestia had sent back to her to help fight off Discord's spell. Every scroll was unwrapped, given a cursory glance to its contents, and put in its proper order according to date sent. However, when she got to this one, she stalled. She smiled at the memory of the poison joke's effects. Enough time had passed that her brain glossed over how truly horrible it was to be found in some humor in it. Crude vulgarity of a floppy horn aside, the effects it caused on her friends were pretty hilarious, especially the fluffy rarity. But the letter's message stuck in her mind. It made her feel strange, like she was unappreciative, cruel, guilty. And with all the pleasantness expected of an infesting wound spreading open, memories and thoughts she had kept locked inside erupted to the front. A glistening red drop swelled more and more till gravity won over, and it splashed in an almost full bucket. Twilight groaned and pressed her hooves tighter against her eyes. Did she really write that friendship report to the princess? What was she thinking?
This is sick. I can't believe you just...
Her throat was sore from screaming. She kept backing away from him, away from that grisly thing.
Stay away from me. Stay away, you monster!
Regden. How long had it been now? She had stayed in Ponyville for about a year, so that meant at least 2 years since then. All that time and no letters, no attempts to talk, not from Regden, Spike, or Princess Celestia. She wondered about that. How none of them tried to bring it up before it made sense to her. He always compiled by her requests. If he believed she hated him and wanted him to remain unseen and unheard, he would do so, and force every pony else to do it too. She had been back to Canterlot a few times since she relocated to Ponyville, most particularly when she and the girls attended the Grand Galloping Gala. She saw no sign of him, and no pony spoke about him. It was like he was never there, as if he didn't ever exist. Was this really the kind of mare she had become? She didn't even spare a second to ask about him. She just let everything fade. All the times together, all the help and support, because she never understood the lesson she had the gall to write about all those months away until today.
Well, no more,
she resolved. She looked around. Spike was still shopping. She got hold of the ink and paper and brought them before her. She was finally going to write the letter she should have written long ago, and as soon as Spike got back, he would send it. Twilight Sparkle broke this. Twilight Sparkle was going to fix it.
Twilight Sparkle couldn't fix one breaded sandwich because she is too dumb and cowardly.
The purple unicorn fumed inwardly while pacing back and forth in front of a napping baby dragon. She stopped, checked Spike for any signals of an incoming magic hiccup, and then went back to making a lyre out of her floors of wood varnish. She had a beautifully worded letter in mind, a letter that would explain her reasons, communicate her fears, and get her grief across and petition for forgiveness. and then she touched her quill to the parchment, and it all went poof. Unable to actually write a letter meant for her actual target without getting jitters even on her magical grip, she instead opted for a more common solution, stripped to its basic essence. It went like this.
Dear Princess Celestia, I bucked up. I want to tell Rigdon I'm sorry for everything, but I'm afraid writing him will not work. What do? Your dumb student, Twilight Sparkle.
She sent the letter 3 hours ago. There was no answer yet. Of course, it was morally reprehensible to expect Princess Celestia to drop everything to answer back immediately, but still, this was important. She was considering the merits of writing a more eloquent version of the letter, one that reiterated the importance of a swift answer to her crushed self-esteem, when she saw Spike stir. She was on top of him, slightly positioned to the left though. Magic Dragon Fire is still fire, and it excitingly watched Spike switch sides and keep on snoring.
Damn it.
Her pacing was interrupted when she heard the library door crash open and a voice call out from downstairs.
Hey, Twilight! Are you here?
She recognized Rainbow Dash's voice. She hesitated for a moment. She really wanted to get this whole thing sorted out, but until she got an answer back from the princess, there wasn't much else to do. Maybe a small distraction would be good right now. Her nerves felt ready like strings, and that had been wound up too far.
I'm here, Rainbow,
she called as she climbed down the stairs.
What's the occasion?
When she reached the bottom, she noticed that Rainbow was not alone. Rarity and Applejack had come in, and all of them had started making themselves comfortable at seats placed around the reading tables.
I guess, Sugar Cube. We were all gonna head out for lunch together and thought you might want to come with us.
Applejack had taken off her Stetson and fanning herself as she spoke.
Indeed,
Rarity added immediately.
It is a lovely day, though a mite too hot for my liking, and it would be a crime to let it go to waste.
Twilight was appreciative of their invite, really, and honestly touched by their unthinking effort to include her in their daily plans, but she had to shoot it down. She gave a short glance behind her at the stairwell, and she came down from.
I'm sorry, girls, but I will have to pass. I'm in the middle of something.
She was interrupted mid-sentence by Rainbow's raspberry.
Pfft, you're always in the middle of something. Come on, Twilight, it's just lunch. What will taking an hour off eat cost you?
Before Twilight could articulate a dishonest answer, she was caught off guard by a loud yawn coming from behind her. Spock walked by her side, his hands scratching his sides as he fought over his drowsiness.
The letter's here, Twilight. I'm telling you, this one almost came up wrong.
Is it possible to have a letter some kind of warning before coming through? Spike was holding one of his nostrils closed and rubbing it as he raised the envelope up.
I'm pretty sure that would only make you sneeze twice.
Her eyes glued themselves on the envelope, her mind striving to come up with an excuse to empty the library from her guests. Rainbow Dash's eye lifted up.
A letter? Is that what you were going to blow us off for, Twilight?
Spike, the horrible assistant that piped out mission-critical info before she even had a chance to decide if she wanted to share it, answered Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, Twilight sent a letter back home earlier today. That's the response.
Home? Rarity inquired.
Canterlot Castle. Oh, yes.
Rarity waved her hoof in a dismissive motion.
I know that you and Twilight were raised in a castle, but the outstanding fact that it does tend to boggle and escape the mind.
Twilight was feeling her non-existent patience running thin, and she had trouble coming up with an excuse that wouldn't be rude or involve involuntary blind teleportations.
Spike, if you could read me the letter now, please.
Sheesh, all right, I will. He unraveled the parchment and yawned before starting the read. Dear Twilight Sparkle, that's you. Okay, sorry, no joking, I get it. Dear Twilight Sparkle, I am very pleased. Hey, give a guy a chance. Twilight was too much in a grip of self-made panic to listen to Spike. She held the letter in front of her and went through it as fast as possible.
Dear Twilight Sparkle, I'm very pleased to finally receive this particular letter from you. I have always been firm in my trust of your character that you would not forsake one of your longest-lasting companions. You have had in your life for any time longer than what you needed as a mature mare to fully accept his, truly somewhat large, differences from what is thought of as the norm. That being said, I wish the response would have come sooner. Rigdon had not been what I would term all right since your confrontation, But you know him as well as I do, my student, and he would accept no attempt to reconcile the two of you that did not come straight from your own heart. He claimed it was a minor thing. Give her a week or two and everything will be fine. To quote him, Twilight, I want you to know there is no blame to be given here apart from his own boneheaded refusal to be the one restoring your friendship. He set his expectations too high on you when you did not have the life experience to deal with this. When the weeks turned to months, he tried to... I'm afraid I have to be blunt about this, Twilight, and I will have to repeat this again for no fault of any of this lies or anyone else but him and me for going along with this. In the end, the only thing that stopped him from gravely harming himself was his fear that you would blame yourself. Twilight, I know this surely upsets you, but I assure you it doesn't have to. Yes, he had become very depressed and suicidal at times, but I am heartened to inform you that he is much better now. Regden has found a new friend and purpose, one that came into his life by your own direct actions. So worry not, Twilight. Even unknowingly, you helped him in his time of need. He misses you terribly, I can tell, but has found new resolve to wait for you. It is a resolve that I am glad is no longer needed. Your fears are unfounded, Twilight. Regden never held the slightest disgruntlement against you. He wants nothing more than to have you and Spike back. He never stopped loving his little ones. Here's my recommendation that you asked for, my favorite student. Invite your friends to come with both and stay in the castle for a few days. Regden will want to meet those special ponies in your life, and I would like to know them more closely. In fact, the Royal Guard is having a tournament for a new position in my Solar Guard, and it would be lovely for all of us to come together like old times. Spectating the tournament like we used to will surely help wipe out any misgivings and repressed thoughts that allow us all to remember and choose the good times we shared over the discontent of today. Waiting to see you next at home, Princess Celestia. Twilight? Oh, my Celestia. Twilight, are you okay?
Twilight blinked through her tears. She tried to focus on the upset Rarity that was talking to her, but it was hard to make her eyes move away from those words she kept reading. She let the letter drop, no longer able to focus her magic enough to hold on to it. Through her hazy vision, she saw Applejack come to her side and put a hoof around her shoulders.
Why are you crying, Sugar Cube? Is something wrong back home? Did something happen to your folk?
Twilight tried to speak, but she was choked by more sobs and cries coming up her throat. She shook her head, unable to speak, till she finally couldn't hold on the slightest semblance of control and threw herself against Applejack, while crying drowned against her coat. Applejack held on to her, whispering soothing nothings at her ear, trying to calm her down. She felt another hoof rest on her back and, hesitantly at first, started stroking her. She couldn't see her. Her eyes were buried in Applejack's shoulders as they were, but she felt certain that was Rainbow Dash. Terrible thoughts were parading across her mind's eye. Scenes where Princess walked in a room, too late to make a difference, to find bloody marks scattered around the floor on a pair of balcony doors spread wide open with no occupant in sight. She pictured a body dangling from a rope, its eyes cloudy and devoid of warmth staring right back at her. She wailed and gripped Applejack with all the strength her forelegs had, desperately trying to hold on her as a shield against these nightmarish images.
Months,
wrote the princess. She would have still been in Canterlot by the time he tried to do something to himself. She was right there, and she didn't know, and she caused it. Apart from her bawling and whimpering, nobody else in the library dared move or talk for a while. What she needed. She felt if any pony tried to push her back into coherence of thought, she would break down all over again. She left herself slowly, quietly down, relieving the sudden ache that had bloated in her heart with her body crashing moans. At some point she had obviously shimmered down enough, though nowhere near calm, for Rarity to attempt to talk to the other members of the household.
Spike, do you have any idea what happened?
No, but let me read that again. Something happened to Regden.
Who?
Rarity did not seem to get her answer. A few minutes passed in which Twilight had mostly exhausted her heavier sobbing. She shifted her face from Applejack's reassuring embrace and saw sweet little Spike standing next to her along with Rarity.
Twilight, it's okay. The princess says he's fine and he wants to see us. It's okay, Twilight.
Please don't cry. Her adored assistant's eyes were humid, ready to start flowing like hers. Twilight let go of her friend and turned to face the scaled dragon she called her assistant, and, in truth, was much more.
Oh, Spike, it's not okay. If Princess Celestia says it's that bad, you know it must have been much worse in reality. I hurt him, Spike. Rigdon could be dead, and it would be my fault.
Her voice cracked. Spike stomped his foot on the wooden floor.
No, it wouldn't be your fault. Princess Celestia wrote so, and she always knows what she is talking about, and it doesn't matter now. We are going back and we will see them both.
His face was more resolute than it had ever been. Rainbow, standing at the side, questioningly raised her hoof.
Sorry to interrupt, but what is going on?
Twilight made a few false attempts at explaining the situation before Spike spoke.
Just read the letter. You guys will get it easier then.
There was silence for a few minutes as the two mayors stood next to Rarity, who was already devouring the letter's contents as soon as permission was given. Applejack was the last to move away from her, giving her a small pat and a reassuring smile. When all three were done, it was Rainbow who spoke up again.
Okay, it sounded pretty bad for a minute there, but the princess says this guy is cool again. Although...
She hesitated a bit, plainly afraid she would set off her friend again.
Who is Rigdon, Twilight?
Twilight stared at the floor, trying to dredge up a short answer that would explain everything about Rigdon was adequately. Spike unhesitatingly brought it down to the simplest terms possible. He's our dad.
Spike, he's not our dad. We got no actual relation to him, and it's disrespectful to call him that.
Twilight told him crossly, her voice still hoarse.
Really?
Spike challenged her.
Because I remember a certain lavender unicorn that called him that lots of times. I was just a little filly then.
Until 2 years ago? You really grew up fast then. Twilight could feel the blood rushing up to her face and making camp for an extended stay as she glanced towards their audience. In fact, Spike tapped his claw against his chin. I distinctly remember you calling the princess Mom. And there was the straw that would break her own back.
Spike,
she hissed.
I swear, that is enough. If you don't stop right now...
But the baby dragon had embarked on a journey fueled by a stream of feelings and thoughts that had been repressed for too long, and wouldn't stop with a mere threat when under the protection of a watching crowd.
And how is that even disrespectful to either of them? They ate it up every single time, either one of us that called him Mom or Dad. Well, they did till you got the whole decorum nonsense into your head. Spike, I said that's enough.
And then you and Dad, dragons were supposed to breathe fire, not caustic vitriol as Spike was currently doing.
Had a fight him and never told anyone what the hay was about, and we never saw him again. Stop! And would you look at that? After all the stuff he has gone through for us and all we put him through, after just dropping him for no good reason. I had a reason!
She roared. She had a flash of red dripping in her mind and felt more tears stinging her eyes. What had gotten into Spike? He was supposed to be helping her, not accusing her, not blaming her.
If it was a good reason, then you would have told us,
he shouted back.
You want to make it up to him, Twilight? How are you going to do that? Just go up to him and say, I'm sorry, Mr. Rigdon. Is this what you were thinking to do? Because if you did, you might just as well use your sword to stab him right in the chest.
Spike was taking deep breaths after this furious rant, tears making their way down his eyes. Twilight just stood still, waiting, looking at him, her own face covered with tears that were flowing free.
Are you done?
She asked, almost whispering. Yes, I'm done. She closed her eyes and took a few deep breaths. This was her problem. Spike was right. She wanted to apologize to Rigdon, but had she truly gotten over her issues, or was this just a token effort to show herself that she had learned something when she had only memorized the words behind the lesson, and not the meaning? She rushed forward to embrace Spike in his hug.
I'm sorry. You're right. He has done his best to be like a dad to us, and it is right to show him our appreciation for everything by calling him Dad. On occasion. It's not fair.
He mumbled from his position against her chest.
I miss him, and he won't answer any of my letters.
She never realized Spike was trying to keep in contact. Hey, she never even thought about it. One more blame to lay against her. She had forbidden Rigdon from making contact with either of them without considering Spike's feelings or wants in the matter. Spike, who, unlike her, only had one single person in the world that would gladly accept the word Dad from him.
I'm sorry, Spike. I should have handled things better.
It's not your fault. He sniffed.
The princess is right. He could have answered me back any time. He is just sulking or something. I don't know.
She didn't concede to this. Spike didn't deserve to be abandoned because of her.
I'll fix everything, Spike. You'll see.
Everything? He tightened his hold against her little claws, stinging her skin, desperate for any reassurance.
Yes.
They stayed like this for a while, the lavender unicorn and the glossy-scaled purple dragon holding on to each other, giving and taking strength and hope from each other's close presence. Twilight indulged in the close contact, feeling Spike's waves of heat that seemed to follow his heartbeat. It was the calmness she needed right then. Figures that the little drake would ruin the moment for her.
What about Princess Celestia?
She pushed him off.
Spike, I'm not going to start calling Princess Mom. It isn't right.
Well, right or wrong, she always liked it. He took a sit by the stool, wiping his eyes to dry them. Just something to think about. She huffed her smiled, but nonetheless. Maybe it was something to think about later. Much later. Right now, she had other things on her mind to do, and as she turned around and... oh. Right, her friends were just standing over there. So... Applejack drawled.
Any chance we get a proper version of all that?
There we go. The end of the Lunar Guardsman Chapter 2, Part 1. I'm excited to get to the second part. It's where we get to see more Rigdon. Love doing that man's voice. And, this guy's fic is just great. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Have a wonderful day.